attention that our webinar actually didn't get recorded properly. So this is the second round. It's not live and you won't be seeing my face or the other participants, but at least you can get the information. So a lot of people really enjoy the Christmas season, myself included, but it is definitely the most stressful time of the year as there's a lot going on in people's lives. There's extra parties, there's extra food to be cooked, there's extra presents to be bought. And although a lot of it is good stress, it is still considered stress and it can still wreak havoc on the body. So, good stress is usually short term and it motivates you and improves performance. So, things like start of a new job, a vacation, moving home, the holiday season, they're usually all short term. And although you do feel stressed, it usually kind of gives you that hustle to get things done. Bad stress is often chronic or long term, but it can be short term. And it's usually something that's ongoing and it usually wears you out and eventually will lead to depression or anxiety. So, usually things like grief, a death of a loved one, a bad relationship that you've been in for a long time, a financial situation that is not changing. These are all examples of chronic long-term stress that wear you out. And of course, there can be short-term bad stress as well. So the holidays can really bring on good or bad stress in people. And it's important to remember that for a lot of people, the holidays can be difficult because it can increase their feelings of grief or loneliness or anxiety. So even though everybody talks about loving Christmas or the most wonderful time of the year, it's not the most wonderful time of the year for everybody. And most people will experience increased stress during the holidays, whether it's good or bad stress. And the ones who experience the most stress, aside from chronic holiday stress, are the ones who take care of doing the shopping or the cooking or the planning. And they usually experience the stress worse, whether it's good or bad stress. So all stress in the body is going to deplete magnesium, or it will affect the body whether it's good or bad. Of course, chronic or long-term bad stress is going to affect the body the most, but all stress will affect the body, no matter if it's considered good or bad stress. So if we look at some of the ways stress affects our body, we have our muscles tense, we usually have an increased heart rate, elevated blood pressure, our nervous system activates, and then we have increased production of stress hormones. So most of us have heard of the fight or flight response. When we experience stress, we experience an array of symptoms, and usually these symptoms are to give us energy to face the situation. So, on a level of hunter-gatherer, we see the animal and we either have enough energy to run or to fight it and kill it and take it home for food. So all of these stress processes, muscles tensing, all of this, demand more magnesium and other nutrients from our body. And the more often this process happens, the more that will get depleted. So if we have stress and it depletes magnesium and other nutrients, if that happens 5 times a week or 5 times a day, then you're constantly using more nutrients than you were or than you would be if you weren't facing a stressful situation. And of course, if this does turn chronic, it turns into a constant depletion because your body's constantly in this stress state. So magnesium does a lot for stress in the body. Magnesium helps to regulate and lower cortisol and adrenaline. It supports your pituitary and adrenal glands. It stimulates your GABA receptors in the brain, which will give you an overall calming effect. It helps relax the muscles so that they don't cramp and that your body can properly relax physically. And it also regulates and balances the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So magnesium really supports all facets of the stress response. And there are even other things that it does for different systems like the digestive system, which is affected during stress, but I didn't go into it on this presentation. It also helps the cardiovascular system when it experiences stress because it's such an important nutrient for the heart. So magnesium is extremely important for all areas of the body, especially when we're dealing with stress. So remember, magnesium is necessary for 80% of what our body does. And when we experience stress, then we can see a lot of different ways that magnesium is used up. So if we really, a great analogy that I heard was to think of the body and the mind as a snow globe that has a switch. So we all know snow globes, you shake it or if you turn the switch on, then the snow comes, and then it settles. So if we think of our mind as a snow globe, all day it's being used and shaken around, and the snow is flying around, and that's kind of the craziness of our day. But at night we need it to settle, and we need it to stay settled. If even a few particles of snow are floating around, then we aren't getting proper rest. And this is what magnesium helps do. It helps shut down the central nervous system to ensure a proper rest and proper rejuvenation so that our body is ready to face the next day without depletion or without exhaustion. So research does show that stress requires greater magnesium from the body. So a direct quote is that stress could increase magnesium loss, causing deficiency, and in turn, magnesium deficiency could enhance the body's susceptibility to stress, resulting in a magnesium and stress vicious circle. So it really is a vicious cycle, and it makes it very difficult to break the cycle without a high quality magnesium supplement, because you're already, when you've faced stress, your body has used up more magnesium, and then you're already at a disadvantage, and it's nearly impossible to break this cycle without getting a really good supplement. And although magnesium is a key nutrient in stress management, there are other nutrients that are depleted through stress and that may need to be replenished in order to fully recover from stressful events. So a few of these nutrients are B vitamins. So B vitamins help with serotonin and dopamine regulation, and they also help to regulate the adrenal glands. And zinc helps to regulate and lower cortisol and helps with GABA brain levels. So we can see how much cortisol production plays a role in our stress because we see that magnesium helps balance it, B vitamins, and zinc. And it's important to note that cortisol is produced in varying levels throughout the day. So it is something we need, and it's a good thing, but we need to make sure that it stays in balance and doesn't go out of control. So we can see how much we need proper nutrients for proper production of all of these stress responses. Another key nutrient in stress is vitamin D. Now, the research is not clear exactly how vitamin D does this, but it is clear that vitamin D does play a role in stress and anxiety, and this is because low levels of vitamin D are associated with a higher level of stress and anxiety. So it's really interesting to see how many of the key stress nutrients also play a role in immune health. So you think about magnesium, necessary for the immune system, zinc, vitamin D, and B vitamins. It's really no wonder that we get so run down in times of stress and that we're much more susceptible to catching a virus or bacteria when we're stressed. So just another reason to make sure that we are keeping our nutrient levels up when we're stressed. So some tips for managing the holidays. And some of these might seem obvious, but they might be a good reminder for some of you, especially during this stressful time. So take your vitamins, definitely, and don't abandon healthy habits. These kind of go hand in hand. So often we get out of routine when we have a busy season or when we're during the holidays. And many people think that if they're eating worse and they're not exercising and they're maybe even not sleeping enough, that there's no point in taking the vitamins and no point in keeping up any healthy habits, and they'll just say, well, I'll get back into it in the new year. The opposite is true. We need the nutrients more than ever when we are out of routine and when we are eating worse and possibly exercising and sleeping less. So don't think just because you're out of routine that you shouldn't have any routine. When you're out of routine, you need those vitamins even more. So another tip I have is to feel your emotions. So if the holidays are hard for you, don't push aside your feelings. Allow yourself to feel and identify those feelings and why you're feeling them, and perhaps reach out to a friend to help talk through some of these feelings. And if these feelings aren't even related to grief or loneliness, if they're just stress and frustration, maybe feeling stress that somebody isn't helping you that should be, or maybe just feeling generally overwhelmed, take a minute to sit and feel those emotions and figure out how you can work through them and find a positive solution to what you're feeling. So one of my solutions, always when I'm feeling that very overwhelmed, stressed emotion with Christmas, is to make lists. So some of you might know that I have 3 boys. So the shopping and the cooking and everything gets very busy as I do all the shopping for the entire family, even in-laws, because they don't know what to buy my children. So I buy it all, I wrap it all, and everybody just pays me back. So sometimes I start to feel very overwhelmed, and I make lists, and I actually even make spreadsheets. So I make sure that I have it all itemized, what still needs to be wrapped, who's from who, what still needs to be bought, and that way my head doesn't feel like it's spinning out of control. And that way at night, that snow globe can actually rest because everything is sort of accounted for. And then also, that kind of goes hand in hand. Ask for help. If you need help with all of the Christmas chores that you have, and you have somebody in your life that can help you, ask them. There's a lot of people that are very willing to help. And although we sometimes get frustrated because we think that they should see that they should help, sometimes we just need to ask for it. And it's really an easy, simple solution to getting some help and dealing with that stress. My major tip, and it's a reminder to everybody and myself, is don't procrastinate, because nothing increases stress like procrastination. Don't do it. It's not worth it. You can enjoy the holiday season better when you're not rushing around, when you're not feeling stressed. So if you can get things done in advance, it's wonderful, because it can give you some extra time to relax before those days of Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, Boxing Day actually hit. And then, of course, take extra magnesium. You will use up more magnesium than usual during the holidays, no matter who you are. Some will use up more than others, but everybody will use up more magnesium in all of the chaos of everything and all the extra activities and all the poor diet choices. So don't deplete yourself of magnesium. Take a little bit extra during this season. Our powders are great for taking extra, because you can just add a little quarter teaspoon extra to your cup, but you can also take an extra capsule of Prismag if that's the product that you use. Or if you're using a different brand of magnesium, just take some extra, because the stress does start to deplete. The magnesium does start to deplete due to the stress. Last year, I was doing everything for Christmas like I always do, and then we decided to book a last-minute trip to Cuba in the middle of the holiday season. So then that was just another added thing to my mind and tasks. And I actually started to get muscle cramps. And muscle cramps are a telltale sign of magnesium deficiency. And I take magnesium every day, but obviously with everything I was doing, it was using a lot more magnesium. So I just added an extra half teaspoon of magnesium to my morning Mag 365 drink, and the muscle cramps went away. And then come January, when things were a bit more relaxed, I cut back on that half teaspoon and my muscle cramps didn't come back. So you can just see how easy it is to increase your magnesium and how easy it is to deplete your magnesium. So everybody has a greater intake of one or more of these things at Christmas: stress, sugar, or alcohol. And if you're anything like me, it's all three. All three of these things will deplete magnesium. Stress, as we just talked about, depletes magnesium. Sugar depletes magnesium, and alcohol depletes magnesium. And most people have increased amounts of all three of these during the holiday season. So again, take your magnesium. Of course, the best way, like we talked about, to ensure adequate magnesium levels is through supplementation. We've spoken in a lot of webinars in the past how difficult it is to get magnesium through food. This is for a few different reasons. It's not in our soil as much as it used to be. It's not in our food due to modern food processing and improper ways of cooking and our high-paced lifestyle. We don't get enough magnesium through food. And you certainly can try, but you really have to focus on what you're eating in the kitchen to get those magnesium levels up. So the best way is to find a good quality magnesium supplement. So we have a couple great ones. A lot of people ask which form is the best for stress. Any well-absorbed form of magnesium will help for stress. Magnesium bisglycinate could be slightly stronger for stress, because glycine also helps reduce stress and helps also facilitate a sound sleep. And magnesium bisglycinate is magnesium attached to glycine, so it could help. Our Prismag did win Best Sleep Aid Award. However, our Mag 365 powder also won an award for Best Stress Relief, so many people find this a very effective supplement for stress as well. My general tip is, as long as it's a well-absorbed magnesium, and at ITL Health we focus only on well-absorbed forms, go for the product that works best for you. So if you're not likely to take a powder, don't buy the powder, because then you're not likely to take it. Just get the capsule. But if you really like a powder and the powder is more economical and you can incorporate it into your routine, well then by all means, try the powder. And we also recommend trying both, or trying one or the other and seeing which one works better for you. And yes, you can take two different forms at once. I know that my partner and my sister, Lene, takes Mag 365 in the morning and and Prismag at night. So you can mix and match depending on your needs and your lifestyle. So if you'd like a copy of this presentation or references used, please email us at info@itlhealth.com, and we'd be happy to share anything with you. For our webinar, we're offering 30% off for 72 hours. using code STRESS30. But given that this webinar didn't record last week and given that the holiday season is very stressful, we will extend this discount until the end of the year. So this STRESS30 code for 30% off will expire on December 31st. Thank you everybody for your time. Thank you for listening, and I wish you a very happy holiday. I hope that you all don't feel too stressed, and that when you do, that you can use a little bit of extra magnesium and the other nutrients that we talked about to bring your body into a state of recovery. Thank you so much for listening, and happy holidays.